This is Watchman Alexander Lawrence, and you're listening to The Apocrymancer. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be doing something that I don't do often. I'm going to be debunking another YouTuber's video. Now, I don't usually spend my time refuting what other people have done, but a friend sent this video to me and thought he might have a point about the identity of the Antichrist. After reviewing the video, I found that there were a number of problems with his interpretation, and so I'm going to share my thoughts about that with you today. The name of the video is Irrefutable, The Last Pope. Again, the subtitle is The Last Pope, and this video has gotten a healthy number of hits. So I'm going to tell you today why you should not buy into the theory that's put forward in The Last Pope. The video was created by a channel called On Point Preparedness. Now let me say right off the bat, I do not know anything about the person that owns this channel or the kinds of things that he teaches outside of this single video. He may be teaching some great stuff. He might be on point in many ways. However, I found that in this particular video, he misses the target. So let's talk about why, but first let's talk about what he got right. The focus of the video is Revelation chapter 17. Specifically, the parts of the chapter that describe the woman who rides the beast. Now, this is a prophetic vision that the Apostle John was having about a woman who is called Mystery Babylon, and she rides on a very strange beast. This is not to be taken literally. Let me go ahead and read the verse to you so you know what we're talking about. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk." And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. When I saw her, I marveled greatly. But the angel said to me, "Why do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman, and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. The beast that you saw was, and is not, and is about to rise from the bottomless pit and go to destruction. And the dwellers on earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world will marvel to see the beast, because it was, and is not, and is to come. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. 1 is. The other has not yet come, and when he does come, he must remain only a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, but it belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over their authority to the beast. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those with him are called chosen and faithful. So this woman that sits on the beast is arrayed in fine clothing, purple and scarlet, and she has many gaudy adornments, gold and precious jewels. She's also drunk with the blood of the saints. So this video by On Point Preparedness starts out well by recognizing the association between the colors of the woman and the jewelry in the Catholic Church. It's easy to see that the Catholic Church has long favored purple and scarlet robes. The bishops and cardinals and other leaders in the Catholic Church often wear these colors. In addition, the Catholic Church is extremely rich, and the narrator of the video points this out, saying that there's no other organization in the world that has been so rich for so long. The Vatican and many Catholic churches are so ornate, it's almost unreal. And the instruments that they use in their worship are oftentimes covered with gold. This church is extremely wealthy without a doubt. And then the video's narrator points out that the woman on the beast is drunk with the blood of the saints. And he notes that the Catholic Church has killed millions, maybe many tens of millions, of disciples of Yeshua. Many Christians who did not agree with the Catholic doctrine and dogmas were martyred for holding to the scriptures. So it's very fair to say that the Catholic Church has been drunk on the blood of the saints. Then he gets to the point of the video where he talks about the 7 hills. The beast that the woman rides has 7 heads. Its 7 heads are both kings and hills. This is where the narrator first misses the mark. He says that the city on 7 hills is Rome. Rome is a city on 7 hills. However, many cities are said to be on 7 hills. In fact, Yerushalayim, or Jerusalem, is said to be a city on 7 hills. And we have a scripture which says that Jerusalem is spiritually Babylon. So if the Bible itself is using the label Babylon to refer to Jerusalem and its apostate state, should we not then assume that this city represented by the great prostitute is in fact Jerusalem? Now, I don't believe that it is speaking of Jerusalem, but that would be a more biblical assumption than the city of Rome. I believe that everything will end up where it began, and it began in Babel. There are prophecies which speak about the end-time beast kingdom being centered in the Chaldees. That's southern Mesopotamia. That's where Babel originally was. And so I believe that Babylon will return there. We haven't seen it happen yet, but there will be a city in that region that will become the greatest city on earth. Remember that the hills are primarily kings. When the angel speaks about this to John, he says the 7 heads are 7 kings. And then he gives an addendum. He says they are also hills. But he also says this, it calls for a mind with wisdom. Understanding this takes wisdom. Well, it really doesn't take wisdom to point to the city of Rome and say, it's called a city on 7 hills. Therefore, this must be the correct association. That's fairly obvious. Why would we need wisdom to understand that?
This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
Let me give you a hint. Kings have kingdoms. And the greatest kingdoms that have been throughout history have had the centers of their kingdoms on sacred mountains, whether natural or man-made. Babylon had its ziggurats. Egypt had the pyramids. We find megalithic structures on hills in Crete, in Greece, in the Levant. I believe what the angel is telling us is that there have been 7 installations of the kingdom or the empire that we call Babylon. It has morphed down throughout the centuries. It started in Babel. It moved up to Assyria, over to the Levant, down into Egypt, then to Greece and Rome, and finally to the Western world. The other thing that we must understand is that this woman represents more than one system. She's not just a religious system. She's an economic and political system that's made plain when you read the next chapter of Revelation. She is an economic powerhouse centered around a particular coastal city. Read it for yourself. You'll be able to tell this is not just religious, it's economic. So we have the political and economic aspect, which may be located in a different place than the religious aspect. What if the modern incarnation of Babylon is split? What if the religious system is centralized in Rome, but the political and economic system is centralized in America, at least for the time being, until the religious universalism being championed by the Catholic Church leads us into a one-world religion whose headquarters will be located in the new city of Babylon, along with the headquarters of the world government. In any case, even if the woman riding the beast is in fact the Roman Catholic Church as we know her, and not a universal religion, we cannot then suppose that the heads of the beast which she rides are leaders of the Catholic Church, because how can she ride herself? And yet this is exactly what the narrator is about to suggest in the next portion of the video. Next, The video narrator addresses chapter 17, verse 10, and this is where he goes completely off the rails. To refresh you, it says, "The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come, and when he does come, he must remain only a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, but it belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction." The narrator explains this by saying that the Vatican became an independent state in 1929. Therefore, the popes have been kings since that time. There were many popes prior to 1929, but those popes would not be considered kings, in his opinion. Only after Italy recognized the Vatican as its own state would popes more or less operate as kings. But here's the problem with that. The angel is speaking to the Apostle John in various tenses. He says that 5 of the kings have already fallen, past tense. He then says that there is one king who is, present tense. Then there are 2 kings who are yet to come. When the angel spoke about one of the kings in the present tense, from whose present was he speaking? Whose if not John's? During John's lifetime, that king was presently alive. But the narrator of the last pope is not seeing it that way. He is imagining that the angel has taken John forward in time. The video shows that there have been 7 popes since 1929. The 6th pope would be the one whom the angel referred to as the king who is, in present tense. The 7th pope would be the one who was to come, but only for a short time. That pope would be Pope Benedict, according to the video, because Benedict gave up the throne early. Instead of dying in office, he retired from it after only a short while. That would be, according to the narrator, the 7th king. That would make the 8th king Pope Francis, or Jorge Bergoglio. If he is the 8th king, then he is the last king of Babylon, the Antichrist. The problem is, there's nothing in the text that indicates that the angel has changed the vantage point, that he has gone forward in time to the lifetime of Pope John Paul II, who would be the 6th pope, so that he could call him the one who is presently.
Man, where did you come up with a scale like that?
Man.
In order to speak about the 6th king in that way, he would have to be speaking from the vantage point of Pope John Paul's life as being present. The text simply does not. It doesn't say, we're going forward in time now. We're going to end up in the late 20th century, and I'm speaking from that perspective when I speak in the present. The text does not say that. This is not talking about popes. This is talking about kings of the different iterations of Babylon through the centuries. Obviously, there have been many kings of the Babylonian type of empires down throughout history, so why these 7 kings? Why narrow it down? It's because these 7 kings are foreshadows of the Antichrist. They are types of the false Messiah to come. In the scriptures, we find many types of the real Messiah. Joseph, for instance, was a type of the suffering Messiah, the Messiah at his first coming, whereas David was a type of the conquering Messiah, the way that he will be at his second coming. Joshua, who led the Israelites into the Promised Land, was also a type of the Messiah. In fact, he had the same name, Yehoshua. So in the same way, we find types of the false Messiah or the impostor. These 7 kings are of one nature because each of them was directly conducted by Satan. As a result, each was supremely prideful and set against God and Israel. Each of these 7 kings tried to annihilate the people of Yahweh. Sennacherib was one. Like all the kings of Assyria, he believed that he was indwelt by the god Ashur. He sought to sack Jerusalem, but the angel of Yahweh supernaturally defeated his army in the same way that he will defeat the army of the Antichrist at the last battle. Antiochus Epiphanes was another. The name Epiphanes means manifestation of a divine being. He tried to Hellenize the Jews and even desolated the holy temple in Jerusalem by sacrificing a pig on the altar and erecting a statue of either Zeus or Baal. Caesar Nero may have been another. The Caesars were worshipped as gods, and Nero may have been the emperor living at the time that John wrote the book of Revelation. Nero was one of the most savage persecutors of Christians and became a popular candidate for Antichrist among early Christians. Adolf Hitler may have been the king who was to come, but only for a short time. Hitler and his followers were heavily involved in occult activity, and they constructed at the rally grounds in Nuremberg a replica of the altar of Zeus, which altar Yeshua called the throne of Satan in Revelation 2:13. The real throne had been dug up at Pergamum and relocated to Berlin more than a decade before the Nazis' rise to power. Hitler, of course, is well known for his attempt to exterminate the Jews. We can debate which historical figures should fit in this set of 7 kings, but clearly there are 7 throughout history who are of special importance in the eyes of the Lord. So what's the deal with this 8th king? We must take the plain meaning of the text and not twist it to mean what we think it should mean based on our ideas about the world. And plainly, this scripture is telling us the 8th king is also one of the 7. In other words, he is a king who has lived before and was previously a king of Babylon. He was an emperor counted among those 7 who have already ruled, but he is also an 8th who will rule again. Why do you suppose it is that those who live on the earth whose names are not written in the book of life, these are the unbelievers, the Gentiles, those separated from the kingdom of God, they will marvel at the beast. Why? Because it was and is not, and yet is to come. In other words, they're going to see a resurrection. They're going to see something brought back that lived long ago, an 8th king who was one of the previous 7. That is worth marveling at. No wonder this character will have such a meteoric rise to power. Not only will he be a brilliant military strategist who will conquer immense swaths of territory in a very short period of time, but he will be awesome simply for the fact that he has come back from the dead. Read my book, Leviathan's Ruse, Volume 1, and you will see plenty of information about this king who once was and yet will be. And you will see how the mystery schools and mystery religions throughout history have been expecting the return of this king and have indeed been working at getting him back. Now, the 10 horns of the beast are 10 kings. These are 10 other kings. They are contemporaries. Unlike the 7 kings who were spaced out over the course of history, these 10 horns are kings who live at the same time, cooperating with one another, who will give their power to the beast. Now, these 10 kings are all part of the same beast, meaning that they will rule over divisions of this end times beast empire until such a time as they hand over everything to the man called the beast from the abyss. So don't be confused. Satan's empire, Babel, what we now call Babylon, has existed throughout history. It began at the Tower of Babel. It took on different forms after that, but the goal has always been the same. The characteristics have always been the same at the foundation. Satan has simply moved from place to place, changed where he's working from, the locus of his power. In the days to come, we're going to see the final and greatest iteration of that kingdom, and Satan will install at its helm his man, the beast from the abyss. There's also a beast from the earth. He is called the false prophet. So again, we have a beast empire, we have a beast from the abyss, and we have a beast from the earth. These are all wild beasts set against God. These are all of the same ilk, but they are different entities. The beast empire has several heads. One of those heads, the prophet John is told, was wounded unto death. It was killed by the sword. That head is the first king, who will also be the 8th king. That head is the one who will be resurrected. The Antichrist will not die of a head wound. Does he have multiple heads? No. The heads are representative of different kings. One of the heads was wounded to death. He is the one who was, is not, and yet will come. He is the one that will be resurrected. So he is the eighth, but he is one of the seven. He is a beast, but he is not the beast empire. I hope you've understood this, but if you haven't, leave a comment in the comments section, and I'll try to answer your questions. Thank you for listening, and shalom.